Hi everybody, it's me, Mike Celestino from laughingplace.com, and I want to talk to you about some Star Wars books that I've been reading recently. A couple big novels have just come out in the last few months, and one of them is actually coming out next week. It's called Star Wars Thrawn Ascendancy, Greater Good by Timothy Zahn. This is the second installment in the current Thrawn trilogy by the character's creator, Timothy Zahn. This is actually the 30th anniversary of Grand Admiral Thrawn because the novel Star Wars Heir to the Empire was published in 1991, May of 1991. So we're coming up on that 30th anniversary. And it's exciting that we're getting two new Thrawn novels this year. This first one's called Greater Good. It's actually the second chapter in the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy. We're going to get the third and final book in that trilogy this fall. But this one is about some political and military entanglements that Thrawn gets involved with in the Chiss Ascendancy, which is, his home species, his home system on the home planet is called Chilla, Csilla. But Thrawn is, right now, he's holding the rank of a senior captain in the Chiss military, and he's out there investigating this invading force. And he comes across a group of refugees, and their leader wants to take her own life and take the life of all the people that she's in charge with because she believes that their home planet has been destroyed, that all the cities are destroyed after they got invaded and attacked, that the planet's no longer able to sustain their life. So they want to basically kill themselves, and Thrawn is out to kind of prove to them that they can return back to their home planet, that it's still safe to go back there, that there are survivors. And meanwhile, there's also this group of alien spies called the Agbui who are inserting themselves into a different Chiss homeworld and a different family. Thrawn belongs to the Myth family, and there's all these different ruling families of Chiss society. So these aliens are basically, they're spies infiltrating this family, and they're trying to spur them into a conflict with other Chiss families they're basically con artists. They're basically earning their trust, and they're setting them up for betrayal. So we're waiting for Thrawn to kind of figure all this out, figure out what's going on, and then attempt to stop this plot to bring down the Chiss Ascendancy. It's all very interesting. I also found it interesting that Thrawn is almost kind of a minor character. He almost gets not pushed to the side, but the spotlight kind of turns away from Thrawn and focuses on some of the supporting characters from the previous novel, which was called Chaos Rising. So we get to know a little bit more about Admiral Aralani. There's a woman named Senior Captain Lakinda, First Officer Samakro, I think is his name. And then there's this character named Chiri, who's called a Skywalker. And these are the navigators aboard the Chiss warships. They're Force users, but they can only use the Force basically between ages, I think, 8 and 12. And they are employed as these child Skywalkers, they call them. And they navigate the ships through the tangled star systems that make up the chaos, which is the area of the galaxy where the Chiss live. So there's a lot of interesting characters, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of political and governmental intrigue, and then a lot with the military going on in Star Wars Thrawn Ascendancy, Greater Good. And like I said, this is part 2 of a 3-part trilogy, and the final book is going to be coming out in the fall. I'm really looking forward to reading that, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing this character of Thrawn show up in the Ahsoka Tano live-action Disney Plus series, which was teased back in The Mandalorian at the end of last year. So a very exciting year for fans of Grand Admiral Thrawn. Another book that came out recently was the final book in the Alphabet Squadron trilogy by Alexander Freed, who I interviewed last year. Very nice guy, great author, really like his books quite a bit. And this wraps up that whole story, all these characters that we came to know as Alphabet Squadron, and they're called that because there's an A-wing, a B-wing, an X-wing, a Y-wing, and a U-wing all flying together against the Imperial remnant. This takes place between Return of the Jedi and the Battle of Jakku, which kind of marked the end of the Empire. If you see this book behind me, Empire's End, by Chuck Wendig, that was the Battle of Jakku, and this kind of overlaps with that. Obviously, we see Rey living on Jakku in The Force Awakens, and we see the wrecked AT-AT or AT-AT Walker. So we know there was a big battle there, and the Star Destroyer that she's exploring and stuff. So if you read that book, Empire's End, and this book, you see that battle actually taking place, which is interesting. And then you also get to know a bunch of these characters, the pilots that make up Alphabet Squadron. I think Alexander Freed is a really, really terrific writer. He's actually getting up there to be, like Timothy Zahn, one of my favorite Star Wars writers working today. And I hope that we see more Star Wars from him. And I also hope we see other stuff from him in addition to Star Wars. So pick that up. It's called Victory's Price. The whole Alphabet Squadron trilogy is definitely worth reading, especially if you're a fan of the pilots of Star Wars. The Thrawn trilogy, that's about the military commanders of Star Wars, the officers. But this is about the pilots out there flying the little single pilot ships in the Star Wars battle. So definitely recommend that. And then a couple other books that came out in recent months. This is called Star Wars Dr. Aphra, and it is the printed script of an audio drama written by Sarah Kuhn, who I interviewed as well. You can find that on laughingplace.com or in my Star Wars podcast, Who's the Bosk? The original audio drama, which came out last year, was adapted from the first 25 issues of the Star Wars Darth Vader comic book that introduced this character of Dr. Aphra. She's like an archaeologist, a rogue archaeologist working in the Star Wars galaxy. She's kind of like Indiana Jones if he was a little bit more chaotic neutral, as opposed to being a good person. She's more in between good and evil, Dr. Aphra, and she does work with Darth Vader. And you can read that. The audio drama is out there. It's great. It's got a full cast. But if you want to read along with it, or if you're hard of hearing or something, if you know somebody who's hard of hearing and can't enjoy it in that way, you can pick up the printed version of the script now, or check out the original comic books. Those are all collected in the trade paperback forms. Those, I think it was 2015 that started the Star Wars Darth Vader arcs that introduced Dr. Aphra. But yeah, it's fun. Sarah Kuhn's a good writer as well, and I recommend that too. And then finally, we've got a book called Skywalker, A Family at War. And this is written by Kristin Baver, who you might know as the host of This Week in Star Wars on the official Lucasfilm Star Wars YouTube channel. And that's kind of a weekly news series about what's new in a galaxy far, far away each week. But now she's also written a book, and it's not quite a reference book, and it's not quite a novel, but it is novel length. And it's kind of like a fictional biography of the Skywalker family, starting with Anakin Skywalker, born to Shmi Skywalker. Actually, it is starting with Shmi Skywalker, and then Anakin, and then Luke Skywalker, and then ending eventually at Rey Skywalker, who adopts the family name Skywalker at the end of the movie, The Rise of Skywalker. And it's kind of presented as though you're reading this and you're living in the Star Wars galaxy. You want to learn more about the history of that family and everything they went through between the events of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. But the cool thing about it is, that I really enjoyed about it, is it's not just the movies. She's not just adapting the movies. It's not just a recap of the movies. You've also got information in here, a lot of information from the novels, from the comic books, from a bunch of different sources. I think they touch on maybe some video game stuff here and there. Anything else that's currently canon, the animated series like Clone Wars and stuff like that, anything that's canon is represented here, as long as it touches on members of the Skywalker family, like Leia Organa, who was born to Padme Amidala, and her father, of course, is this guy Darth Vader, or Anakin Skywalker. So anybody that's touched the Skywalker legacy gets talked about in here. And the other cool thing about it is it's got these photo sections like you would find in a real biography. In the middle of the book, there's a couple of these photo sections. So there's Padme Amidala when she's pregnant. There's Anakin. So that's like the prequel era. And then later on in the book, you've got the original trilogy era. Obviously, Leia marries Han Solo, gives birth to Ben Solo, who becomes Kylo Ren. A very complicated history of that family, who were kind of key players in this galactic conflict. And famously, of course, they were Force users as well. So the most famous family probably in Star Wars got their fictional biography in Skywalker, A Family at War by Kristin Baver. So yeah, some great books. My favorite of those four, though, was probably closing out the Alphabet Squadron trilogy. My favorite book of the Alphabet Squadron trilogy was the second one. I think it's called Shadow Falls back there. But this is a good way to close it out. And like I said, I recommend reading all three of those books. Really terrific. And I am really looking forward to also finishing the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy this fall. The next book's going to be called Lesser Evil. So it's going to be Greater Good Than Lesser Evil. And that's going to close out that trilogy. This all takes place before Thrawn goes and joins the Empire. And you can go read the other current canon Thrawn books that you can see behind me there on the shelf. Lots of great stuff to read coming out of Lucasfilm Publishing and the publishers like Del Rey and DK and all those guys. This is Mike Celestino from laughingplace.com. I'm covering a whole bunch of stuff this year, Star Wars-wise, and always at laughingplace.com. I review every issue of every Star Wars comic book pretty much, a bunch of the novels, pretty much all the novels coming out and stuff like that too. And then we've got Star Wars The Bad Batch starting up on May the 4th. So it's going to be a very exciting year. And I'm sure there's plenty more news to come from a galaxy far, far away. Please check that out. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you real soon right here at the Laughing Place YouTube channel. Bye.